record.
Thank you for tuning into the community conversation brought to you by Prototype Training System, home of CrossFit Prototype. Sam and I are back with another nutrition episode to help provide you with some education and strategies to better your nutrition. There's a lot of misinformation out there on nutrition. We wanted to provide you with some clarity on some of these matters. Today, we're talking about food labels, how to read them, what to look for, and some things to be aware of when seeing things advertised on certain products. So to start this one off, Sam, food labels have evolved over time, I believe. So I think recently they just changed a little bit, right?
Yeah, good point. So the way they used to be set up is basically like everything was the same size. And so you looked at it and like it was hard to tell what to look for. And so recently, within actually it might be more than 5 years now, but semi-recently, like in less than 10 years, they've updated the labels. So now that the serving size is bolded, and so that the calories is bolded and bigger in font. And I do believe that a lot of products, they had to adjust the serving sizes too. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that like ice cream or something, they had to adjust the serving size to be like an accurate serving size of what people typically take for portions, as opposed to like a number so that they could like claim a low calorie food when it like really wasn't. There's like a lot of regulations around labeling, but basically what happened is serving sizes are bolded and calories are bolded. So someone like at a quick glance who's trying to keep track of calories for like a multitude of reasons would be able to like look at it, know how much to eat, and know how many calories are in that. Beyond that, like there's still like the bolded carbohydrates and protein and fats. So like your macros are bolded. And then those are actually broken down a little bit more as well in the newer ones, so that like you don't just get like total sugars, you get total sugars, total added sugars, and then fiber. So like you can look at the label for like a banana and you can look at the label for like, I don't know, like a candy bar. And even if they have the same amount of sugar, you can see that like one is 0 grams of added sugar and one is like 30 grams of added sugar. So there's a couple of changes like that, but you know, it's all the same information. It's just formatted a little nicer for us to know what's going on.
Right. So for the regular person, when they see a food label, usually the first thing that they look at is the calories. Mm-hmm. Now, what's everything else in the food label and how does that relate to the calories? What is actually equaling the calories? Just so people that don't really understand how a food label works, what's even besides the vitamins, minerals, everything on there, what's making up the calories, just so we have better understanding.
Yeah. So the calories come from the macronutrients, the proteins, fats, and carbs. And we're like going to, at some point in this, share the screen so those of you who are watching can see an actual nutrient label as we talk through this. I'm going to try to talk through it so people listening can follow along without looking at the picture. But what happens is calories come from the macronutrients. Fat carries 9 calories per gram. So if a food has like 10 grams of fat, it has 90 calories in it. And then the carbohydrate is 4 calories per gram. So if there's 10 grams of carbs, it's going to be 40 calories. And then the same with protein, it's also 4 grams, 4 calories per gram. Sorry, I'm like at a loss for words today. 4 calories per gram. So protein, 4 grams is going to be 40 calories. And so when you look at a label, if you see 10 grams of fat, 10 grams of carbs, 10 grams of protein, altogether, that's 90 plus 40 plus 40. That gets you to 170 calories. So if you look at 170 calories food, it's really, that's the breakdown of like where those calories are coming from. Did I explain that in the way you wanted me to?
Yeah. And I think too, like some people that do, track their macros and things like that, a common question that comes up is why don't the macros that are on a label always equal the amount of calories that are on there?
It's so rounding is why. Labels are allowed to be off by, I believe it's 5%. And I'm not exactly sure what the number is. but there's like a specific percentage and it's low, but like nutrition labels are allowed to be off by a little bit. So say there's really like 10.6 grams of fat, like they're allowed to put in 10 grams. And so that's why it's going to look different on the label as opposed to what the calories are. It doesn't mean that it's not accounted for. It just means that something is rounded somewhere, and that's why it's not matching up exactly.
So if there's like 173 calories, they'll just round it to like 170 just for like those round numbers are just what US FDA approves of.
Exactly. And that's why you see like it's easier to round. So like why you see, for like example, like gum, right? It'll say like less than 5 calories because like they're rounding and like you'd like to put 0, but it's probably closer to 5 and they don't want to put 5. So they're allowed to say less than 5 calories. And it's just because there's like flexibility like that in like the regulations for the labels. So it's pretty accurate. At the end of the day, like 3 calories is not going to be make or break it. So if you're looking at that and you're like, oh man, I really missed out on those 3 calories, don't worry.
And I believe if you go to Europe or like another country, like you'll see like those weird numbers. It's just like an American thing that the numbers are like rounded up or down.
Yeah, they use kilojoules and complicated measures too. Well, complicated for us because I didn't learn that.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. We're just gonna use an example product, example food label. We'll walk you through how to read the food label, and we're also going to talk about things to be aware of when seeing certain things as advertised. So for anyone that's on YouTube, you will be able to see what I'm sharing. If you're not, we're going to do the best that we can to describe what we're talking about. So, okay, so to start, here is a food label. This product is like a Nature Valley bar. So first of all, the nutrition facts, the first thing you're going to see at the top is how many servings are in the container. So this, for example, is it's a pack of individually packed bars. So one serving size is 1 bar, and you'll always see in parentheses the weight. For this, since it's already packaged, the weight doesn't really matter. But if we had something like granola or something like that, what it says in grams is actually super important, especially if you are like tracking your food and you want to be accurate with how much you're having. Because if we were to take something like peanut butter, for example, where the serving size says 2 tablespoons, it's also going to say in parentheses how much it actually weighs. So 2 tablespoons could be 2 rounded tablespoons, 2 flat tablespoons. It's kind of hard to exactly know what a tablespoon looks like unless you've weighed it out before. So that's why you'll always see both of those options as ways of being able to measure what is on here. All right, so we're going to go to the calories next. Okay, so like Sam said, the total amount of calories is going to be represented by the total amount of fat, the total amount of carbohydrates, and the total amount of protein. You can even see these things bolded now. Those are the only things that are going to have, that are going to contain calories on a food label. You'll have your things like sugar and fiber and things like that, but those are different forms of carbohydrates, which are going to be accounted for the total amount of the carbohydrates. The daily percentage. Now, Sam, I believe this is based off of, and it should say like at the bottom, I believe the percentage, yeah. So you'll even see at the bottom of the food label, where it says your daily value, that's based off of an arbitrary number of 2,000 calories. Okay, so 2,000 calories could be a lot for some people. It could also be it could be a very small amount of food. But the food label, the daily value is just based off of that amount of calories. Okay. And I don't know, I think that's a little like outdated too, of like what these daily values represent, because some people like need more carbs, some people don't need as much carbs, some people need more protein, some people need more fat. So those percentages are a little skewed in my opinion, just because I feel like everyone's needs are a little bit different. But that's what you're going to always see on the food label. And that's what that percentage means. It doesn't mean that's like what you need. It means it's based off of like a 2000 calorie diet. So Sam, you want to talk about like fiber really quick? Because I feel like this is one that people always skip over, and this is pretty important for, especially when you're having anything that is like somewhat processed. Like if we have some fiber in it, it's usually going to be a somewhat of a better choice, just for the sense that it could be a little bit more satiating than other choices. But Sam, I'll let you talk about fiber just for a sec.
Yeah, so we love fiber just to basically stay regular. If you're not someone who has like a regular bowel movement every single day, you're probably lacking in fiber. And yes, like average person and like what we consider like normal health is like pooping once a day. Now, like that's not true for everyone. But as long as there's no like other major concerns or conditions that you're dealing with, realistically, you should be pooping once a day. It's like, that's how you check if your baby is well fed. And John, I'm sure you're well versed in this now, of like, you should be changing the diaper so many times a day. And there's like a reason, because like, that's how you can tell if a baby is well nourished. Same thing for adults. Like we should be pooping once a day. That's how we know that we're getting enough fiber. So if you're eating a ton of fruits and vegetables, like not cooked, still with the skins on, like not bananas, obviously peel a banana, but like the fiber is in like an apple peel. So like keep that on. As long as you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables, you're probably getting adequate amounts of dietary fiber. But if you're someone who's always on the go or not able to eat a ton of fruits and vegetables, or like not eating a lot of whole grains, choosing foods that are more processed that still contain quite a bit of fiber is a good thing to look for. And so like this at 6 grams of fiber is actually like a pretty solid snack. Like I would recommend this somewhere in like the 6, 7, maybe 8 grams of fiber range is like kind of what we're looking for in something that's processed. However, if you are someone who eats all vegetables all the time, only whole grains, and you are just getting overloaded on fiber, you probably want to find a snack like this that's actually a little bit lower in fiber so that your body's not overwhelmed. The big thing is, and we've talked about it before, is like you don't want to go from 0 fiber to 100 fiber, because you will be on the toilet and it will not feel good. So yeah.
There's 2 different kinds of fiber too. This label doesn't, I don't see it on here, at least. It doesn't say
no, it's not talking
insoluble versus soluble. So
yeah.
some labels will actually differ the two. And the only difference between soluble and insoluble fiber is just one is going to like help you actually go to the bathroom. The other one's going to make sure that your stool is actually like solid and not like diarrhea. So that's, I mean, this is why like fiber is important, is for your gut health. But so just something to look for, guys, is when you're looking at a food label is like fiber. And I don't know about you, Sam, but I usually recommend somewhere around, honestly, depends on the person, but usually anywhere between like 25 on like a low range to maybe like 30, 35 grams of fiber, but it kind of depends on you. And, but it's usually like my recommendation of, you know, having only 10 grams of fiber a day is probably not enough in my opinion. So
no, it's a solid ballpark for the vast majority of people.
Yeah. So now we look at, we'll break down the fat, carb, and protein a little bit. So like Sam said, 9 calories per gram of dietary fat, 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, 4 calories per gram of protein. So let me see if I can go back a little bit. So this is a Nature Valley bar, and this is something that we wanted to make sure we talked about, is that this bar is labeled as a protein source, right? Nature Valley protein chewy bar, but 10 grams of protein. So this bar has fewer calories coming from protein than it does dietary fat. So if we're not fully understanding the context that yes, this has some protein, but this is not necessarily a high protein source, then we can easily overconsume calories, just being unaware that having too many of these is not going to, the calories can add up quick and you're not actually getting a ton of protein. So you would need like 2.5 of these bars to have one protein shake. I'm not saying like protein shakes are the best thing that you can have, but it's just good to understand like the difference if we were to compare it. So this bar, again, is kind of advertised as a protein source. It has 40 calories out of those 190 calories coming from protein. Now, everything is context dependent. You may not be looking for a significant amount of protein. You might actually be looking for a snack that's going to give you some energy for a period of time. So having a little bit more dietary fat could be something, and this has some added fiber in it too. This could be a pretty decent choice that could tide you over. But if you're looking for this to be a source of protein, we want you guys to start looking at the food labels a little bit more. Sam, what do you usually like recommend? I mean, I just said like it's context dependent, but usually I'm personally usually trying to find things that have more protein than the dietary fiber when it comes to like a ratio of how much protein to dietary, not fiber, sorry, dietary, the fat content of the things that I'm having, if it is a like a processed food. But what do you look for yourself?
Yeah. So like I'm gonna be honest, I don't read labels personally if I'm like doing my nutrition. You guys know I don't track, I like can't be bothered. But like if I'm recommending it to someone of like when I do a macro breakdown for like a lot of people, I try to say like let's try to get 30% of your diet from protein, right? Like whatever calories you're shooting for, we're trying to get 30% of that to be protein, because like a lot of people that we work with are here at the gym all the time. We're working on building muscle. And so like protein is a big and very important part of their diet. So protein is one of the things that's harder to get. And like we have talked about this at length, John, of like, it's just not convenient. Protein is not as easily transportable as like either a piece of fruit or another kind of snack. So if we're looking here and I'm like looking at a snack, and so one of my clients is like, okay, what kind of snack should I bring to get myself protein? I'm going to say, let's try to keep it in that same ratio, right? So if you want 30% of your diet to come from protein, like let's try to get a snack that also has 30% protein, which in this case of this protein bar where there's 10 grams of protein and 190 calories total, it's not quite there. It's like a little lower on protein than say like the protein shake that you were talking about.
Right.
Now it's totally dependent, like we said. So like this might be a great snack. Maybe it's not as high in protein, but this could be a great snack for someone who's like actually had a ton of protein during the day and is struggling to get in carbs and fats. This is another like tool that they could use to like meet their macros if they're set on protein and need to get more carbs and fats in the day. So it really is dependent, but like if you're looking to hit specific macros, try to find labels of snacks that kind of help you get to those macros.
Right. Got it. So now when we look at like the total sugars and stuff like that, how much should we, monitor sugar intake and things like that? And, how can we monitor it without having to be overly obsessive with tracking every little tiny thing that we have?
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is just to look at it as a whole, right? So if you're not eating a ton of processed foods, like if you're eating whole foods, if you're eating chicken and fruits and vegetables and other protein sources that are just meat, or like you're having, I don't know, like a low sugar item. I don't even know off the top of my head what would be low sugar, because I'm like, oh, Greek yogurt has added sugar. All breads have added sugar. Like foods have added sugar. And so when it comes to total sugars, what I kind of look at is like if you're having something with a food label, like that doesn't come from the earth, try to make sure that like the total sugars, unless it is a dessert, let me just put that out there, unless it is a dessert, like keep it lower than 20. And I don't like putting great big numbers on it, but like if I'm looking at a Greek yogurt, right? And I know that off the top of my head that like the Greek yogurt that I have on a regular basis has 12 grams of sugar and 15 grams of protein, right? And I have Greek yogurt because I want to get protein. So I'm not going to look at Greek yogurt as like a bad food because it also has 12 grams of sugar. It's just like, it's under that 20. Like for me, that feels okay of like, I'm having a protein food that's not high in sugar.
Right. I personally don't monitor sugar intake at all. I mean,
I don't
the reason why I don't is because I feel like if you're controlling your calories, then you're going to be controlling your sugar intake. If your calories are controlled, then it's literally impossible to go ahead and have too much of something because your body's not going to store something that is not there. So if you're being more aware of like eating foods that make you feel good, give you good energy, and things along the lines of that, we probably don't have to really overanalyze the sugar intake. If you have something like that frozen yogurt or whatever it is, like just try to think about like your diet as a whole. If you're having several servings of those types of things, then you're probably less on the side of having too much sugar and more on the side of you're having too many calories and it's coming from a lot of things that also have a lot of sugar in them. So if we kind of like look at things like that, then that's probably an easy way that we don't have to look at these food labels and be like, oh my God, this has X amount of grams of sugar in it. That's not the best choice for me. Maybe kind of look at things a little bit different as to how do you think that's going to make you feel? What's the context behind you having that food choice? Is it, you're having this bar as a meal? If so, that's probably not gonna make you feel very good for a long period of time. Like think about things like a little bit more like that when you guys are looking at your food labels. I guess the last thing is this is something that I never really look at because I always just kind of look at fruits and vegetables as where I like just having like a lot of different colors throughout the day. I don't really say, hey, I'm going to have this banana for potassium. I more just try to get a lot of variety in. But what is this to you, Sam, and how important is like looking at these things when it comes to something that does have a food label is usually going to be something that's also processed in some way. So what do you think about the vitamins and minerals with some of these things?
So it's interesting. So the vitamins and minerals are useful for a lot of people. I find that it's easier just to worry about like eating an overall healthy diet, right? And like I think this is like exactly what you're saying of like as long as you're getting enough of all the right things, you don't need to worry about like the nutrition label so much as like, yeah, it would be great if your snack has vitamin D in it. It would be great if you could have extra calcium and iron and potassium and all the other things. I mean, those are the four that we see here, but like thiamine and niacin are in things a lot. Added B vitamins are in things a lot. We see vitamin A and vitamin C. Like to have the extra vitamin and minerals on the nutrition labels is great and can be useful. And I actually do use them. Like I just had a conversation with a client not too long ago who has kidney disease, right? And so she's got to monitor her potassium intake. And so for her, looking at potassium is important. But for the vast majority of the population, like as long as you're eating fruits and vegetables, you're not going to need to look at the vitamin and mineral list on a food label, because also that's just like a lot of numbers to get bogged down in, right? Like there's a lot of data on this food label. And really what it comes down to, the reason they made these major changes is like calories is big because that's what a lot of people look at. Serving size is bolded because that's what a lot of people look at. Fat, cholesterol, sodium, carbs, and protein are bolded because that's what a lot of people are look at. And if like you can't like, if this is information overload, then like don't get bogged down in the vitamins. Don't get bogged down in like the specifics of like the fiber versus sugars. Like look at it as a whole and look at it how it fits into your day to day.
Right. Now, what's your opinion on ingredients?
Well, if it contains something that you're allergic to, then it's probably not a good food for you. Like I would not eat this because I'm allergic to peanuts. So like this would be a bad food for me to eat. I know I should not eat this. I will not feel good. I might need an EpiPen. The thing is, like I forget, like, I don't know where this came from, but like, I guess like the recommendation through a lot of CrossFit is like, if there's more than 10 ingredients, don't eat it. And I don't subscribe to that at all. I think like the less processed something is, like the better it is to having your diet, just as a general rule, but like also there's a lot of unprocessed things that are not good to having your diet. So I think it's okay when you see a lot of different ingredients. The thing is, like, don't get fooled by claims on the label, right? So like there's some labels that'll say like no high fructose corn syrup. And so that makes you think, okay, if a food has high fructose corn syrup, it's terrible for me. Where like, first of all, high fructose corn syrup is okay for you. If you like break it down scientifically, it's like not going to kill you. So like if you
Sugar.
yeah, like it's in here, like it's in here. So like looking at this label, I'm like, okay, someone's going to see corn syrup and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's like an ingredient that I shouldn't be having. Not the case, right? Sure, fewer ingredients would be great. Less processed would be great. But like this is a convenient snack for someone. Like this can fit into someone's macros. This is a great snack to tide you over when you're in the car and you haven't had a chance to eat lunch and you're like just trying to get somewhere so you can get food. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
ingredients labels, look to make sure that there's nothing you're allergic to and then kind of ignore the rest.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, I actually want to even look up one more food label just to share, because I think this is like a really easy one to go ahead and.
Oh, I'm excited to see what this is going to be. This is a surprise for me too.
Oh, so I mean, I'm just opening up. This is just Oreos.
Oh, yes, my favorite snack.
So the serving size is 2 cookies. All right. So I think this is also an outdated food label too. So it actually doesn't even have all the ingredients labeled and stuff like that. I wonder if we have like an updated one here somewhere. I don't know if
not an Oreo.
No, that's not an Oreo.
John, click the one of the box upside down. The one that's to right of that, because those are mini Oreos.
This one?
Yeah. No, what the one below that?
This one.
Love
Right
is everyone's getting a real time. This is
right,
what John and I do to prepare usually.
All right. So first of all, I'm not demonizing this at all. I'm just like, think about this, like Oreos are like, they have like a ton of ingredients, and that's just probably, it's just because that food is designed to taste really good.
Mhm.
That's it. Like it's food science. It's designed to taste really good. Understand that. The serving size, I think it depends. This is some weird type of Oreo. It's either like 2 or 3 cookies.
Mhm.
So if we look at like 150 calories for 2 cookies, it's not that's really like a bad choice. It's that, is that going to be a satisfying choice for you if you were having 2 cookies as your dessert, or would you be more tempted to have 4 or 6 or something like that, which now it's less about, okay, Oreos are bad, and more about, okay, it's hard for me to feel satisfied eating this because it's not filling and it tastes really, really good. So if we kind of look at things a little bit more like that, then we can have an easier time making a choice. If like something like having 2 Oreos or 4 Oreos or whatever it is doesn't feel like it's going to be gratifying for you, and you're, then maybe that's not the food choice that you want to have all the time, right? But the ingredients in themselves are not harmful at all. It's just that that it's going to taste good because it's just designed to taste good. I say this all the time to my clients. If you could have as many cookies as you want, but here's the catch: you can only have 1 cookie every 10 minutes. What's the likelihood that you're going to go ahead and overeat cookies? Probably very small, because no one wants to spend an hour eating cookies because they have to spread them out like that much in time frame. So when we're eating things like this, like Oreos, and we're not even talking about the food label anymore, talking about if you're eating something like an Oreo that is highly processed, just based off the fact that it's got like 20 ingredients, so it's ultra processed, it's going to taste really good. If eating something like this, you need to be very mindful with eating it, because it's going to taste very good, and you're probably going to want to eat more than what the serving size is. Okay, so that's usually my recommendation on when you guys are looking at a food label. Okay, you should have a pretty good understanding, especially if you have experience in having things like Oreos or certain candies or whatever it is that you're gonna feel a certain way. So
I'm gonna be
if
honest, I
you're
had Oreos for breakfast,
yeah,
John. So
you had Oreos for breakfast.
not even lying. Literally had Oreos and breakfast. But the thing is, here's like
You are the worst.
but no, bringing it full circle to what you just said. Like you are saying like, or you know how you're gonna feel after you eat Oreos. Everybody always comments how I never drink coffee. I don't like coffee. It hurts my stomach. I don't like the taste of it. It's like gross to me.
Yeah.
But I know if I have Oreos at 3:45 in the morning, like I have the energy I need right away to be ready to go for coaching at 5 a.m. Right? So like it serves its purpose. I have not dropped dead. I've eaten Oreos and I'm still alive. And I'm still otherwise healthy.
His diet consists of 150 calorie breakfast because she eats 2 cookies in the morning.
I
And she's on her feet all day.
4 today. I had 4
Has
today.
a Pop-Tart for lunch.
That's a lie. I have a Greek
It really
yogurt
comes
and I
down
have
to
a protein
comparing
bar. But that's the thing, right? Like I'm hope I'm proving your point and saying like the ingredient list is long. It has a lot of things that like maybe aren't as nutritious as something else, but like in the morning at the crack of dawn, like I'm not drinking a cup of coffee, I'm eating 4 Oreos.
Yeah.
And I'm still alive.
Yeah. And Sam meets her protein needs every day.
100%. Absolutely. I do.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
Yeah. This is why I say you shouldn't base your nutrition off of other people, right? Is because, yeah, like I eat 4 Oreos every morning. Not every morning, but like most mornings, if I'm being honest. Not everybody should do that. Which is why, wait, let's bring it full circle. This is perfect. Which is why when you look at nutrition labels, like, yeah, go ahead and look at the calories, look at the serving, look at the protein, fats, and carbs. Don't really pay attention to those percentages because they don't mean anything for you personally. They mean things for other people. So like it's information overload. It's numbers that you don't need to look at. This is why we say like, come to us and talk to us and figure out like what you actually need for your body. And then you can actually use the information that you have on the labels to eat the way you need to. Because like for me, like I don't look at a label at all because like I know I eat Oreos in the morning and then I like get some protein later on in the day and like my calories probably balance out because I've been pretty much the same weight my entire adult life, right? So like I don't look at labels at all, but I know what I need body wise. It's a great tool, labels, to use if you're like not sure where to start or if you're trying to hit specific macros. At the end of the day, your body does this math for you.
It's like I have my dessert after dinner. You have your dessert when you wake up.
Yeah. It's not that far apart either because we're both up at not even like the crack of dawn, before the crack of dawn.
Eat like a child.
Yeah, I'm a bad example. Don't listen to me. Do as I say, not as I do. But also do as I do because I eat what feels good for my body and I eat what I want to eat and I don't stress about calories or anything like that, you know?
I like Hallies now. That's the hip way to say it.
My words today, I'm tripping over every word this morning. It's something.
If you guys have questions on any of this stuff, don't ever hesitate to shoot us a message. Anything that you've ever been wondering about how to read a label or anything regarding what we've talked about. And if you guys are interested in a nutrition consultation, so we can answer some of your questions privately, Sam and I are always available.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.